This is the story of Philip Ashley and the people he loved the most in his life. He was an orphan. His parents died before he was 2 years old, and his cousin Ambrose Ashley cared of him. They were like brothers, and Philip loved Ambrose so much. They lived in a beautiful house in the west of England. They both grew up, and when Ambrose was 40, the doctors told him that he should go abroad. He should go to warmer cities to avoid getting sick during the winter in England. On the third time he traveled abroad, he decided to go to Florence and Rome to see the beautiful gardens there. Philip wanted to go with him, but Ambrose said no because someone had to take care of the house. While Ambrose was in Italy, he sent letters to Philip. The first letter arrived to England at Christmas. In it, Ambrose told Philip about his cousin Rachel, a distant relative. She lived alone near Florence in a big house called Villa Sangalletti. In the next letter, which came in the spring, Ambrose said that she was a very intelligent woman and her gardens were so beautiful. He also said to Philip that he was giving her advices on business matters because she was short on money. This surprised Philip because his cousin had never shown interest in a woman. In April, Philip received another letter. In it, Ambrose told him that he had married his cousin Rachel. At that moment, Philip knew that his life would not be the same, and he began to feel jealous of her. Ambrose asked Philip to tell his neighbors that. So, he went first to the house of Nick Kendall, who was a close friend of the family and who was Philip's godfather. Later, in July, Ambrose sent Philip a letter again after a while. In it, he told him that he was very ill and that he was afraid of the doctors, of a man named Rinaldi, and even of his wife. At that moment, Philip decided to travel to Italy, and when he was already in the carriage, another letter came to him in which Ambrose told him that it was too late. He told him that Rachel had won, and he was dying. Philip arrived at Villa Sangalletti on August 15. There, a servant of the house told him that his cousin had passed away 3 weeks ago and that Rachel had left Florence after the funeral. The same servant gave Philip the address of Rinaldi, Rachel's friend. When Philip arrived to Rachel's friend's house, he told Philip that Rinaldi has a brain tumor and that had caused that he believed that Rachel had hurting him. Rinaldi also told Philip that Nick Kendall now was his guardian. So Philip was to own everything that belonged to his cousin until he was 25 years old. Meanwhile, Nick Kendall was going to manage the assets of the Ashley family. Philip returned to England, and 2 weeks later he received the news that his cousin Rachel was going to arrive at his house to know the place where Ambrose lived. Philip was excited because he wanted to make her suffer. When he had her in front, she seemed like a helpless woman. It seemed that she really felt sad for Ambrose's death, so Philip began to believe that she was not so bad. The next day, Rachel found out that Philip had been in Florence, and she read the letters in which Ambrose wrote horrible things about her, so she felt very bad. Rachel knew how much Philip had hated her all that time. When Philip saw her crying, he took pity on her and burned the letters, so that they would forget everything. One day in October, Philip and Rachel began opening several boxes that she had brought to the house. They were Ambrose's stuff. Philip found a letter in which Ambrose told him that his cousin was spending a lot of money and it was very dangerous. It was like an illness, but that did not matter to Philip.
The months passed, and Philip, who grew more and more fond of Rachel every day, he was beginning to believe that she was beautiful and he needed her to be happy. Even at Christmas, he decided to give her a pearl necklace that belonged to the Ashley family, and she thanked him for the gift with a kiss that captivated him.
This gift caused an argument between Nick Kendall and Philip. Philip's guardian was concerned that the necklace should still be kept in the bank, and he was concerned about the great fortune Rachel was spending. In the first day of the spring, Philip found another letter in which Ambrose told him that he suspected that Rinaldi was in love with Rachel, and that is why he did not sign his new will in which he left everything to Rachel. He also suspected that Rinaldi and Rachel were trying to poison him to keep all his fortune. But all this didn't matter to Philip, and he decided to write a new document in which all the assets of the Ashley family will belong to Rachel. A day before his birthday, Philip went to the bank to pick up the jewelry of the family and take it home because he wanted to give it to Rachel. At midnight, when it was already April 1st and when he was already 25 years old, Philip gave Rachel the jewels and the document in which she owned all the family property. Rachel was with him all night, so he believed that she had accepted his love. But for entire next day, she was so cold with him. After Philip's birthday dinner, she told him that what happened at midnight was only to thank him for the jewels.
Days later, Philip felt sick and was unconscious for 5 weeks. After that, one day in the evening, Rachel and Philip were drinking tisana when she received a letter from Rinaldi. That night, Philip went into his cousin's room to search the letter on her desk because he wanted to know if it was a love letter. But all he found were poisonous laburnum seeds in her little drawer, and at that moment Philip knew that Rachel had been poisoning him. The next day, when they returned from the church, a workman told Philip not to walk on the sunken garden bridge, because it could break and someone could get hurt. After dinner, Rachel went to see the sunken garden, but after a long time she did not return. Philip went to look for her in the garden, and he saw the broken bridge and her lie on the ground. Rachel was dead.
I really like this story because the plot is so intriguing and exciting. I think a fundamental piece in this story is the strong relationship between Ambrose and Philip, because it causes the reader feel more intensely the mourning of Philip for being away of his cousin. I really like the character of Rachel because she is a very intelligent woman. She knows how to use her attributes to get whatever she wants. It was impressive everything she achieved, especially falling in love with Philip because she made him love her despite being the widow of his cousin, of Ambrose. On the other hand, I must admit that reading this story was a bit desperate for all the injustice there were. I wish Ambrose could survive and he and Philip faced to Rachel to prove that she was a bad person. I think that would have been a better option for her to think more deeply about her mistakes. Perhaps it had been possible that after accepting that she had done wrong, she, Philip, and Ambrose could start a friendship again. My Cousin Rachel was a very interesting reading that I would definitely recommend to everyone.